First of all, I would like to welcome you all back. Especially, we would like to welcome everybody who joined us now for this session. We are now inviting Professor Antonicin and Professor Ramberger to give their speech.
This is joint work between Tomasz and myself, and to show you that Tomasz didn't just go to Singapore and had a good time for 3 months. You know, he led a very balanced life. So this is part of the other side of the balance, whereby he had to work very hard on this area of research, which actually took like 2.5 months to develop, and so it is very preliminary. So basically, this is ongoing research. Now, the whole issue of port choice is not new. People have studied on it with respect to behavioral choice models, discrete choice models, are using all kinds of mathematical, even fuzzy logic. So it's not new. Okay? But what we are doing here, the title may be a bit misleading in a sense that we are not trying to provide a method for choosing a port, but rather to rank ports in your decision-making process. So if you're the guy who is sitting down there as a third-party logistics or a shipping company, or even if you're at the end of you're a retailer like Walmart, what kind of ports, which ports would you use in order to get your stuff from the point of production to the point of consumption? So this is basically looking at moving stuff from production points to consumption points. Now, I think this thing is not coming out as well as... Well, basically what we have on this diagram, production points in East Asia and the ports from which the production points can export through, and then the ports are then connected to ports in Europe, and the consumption points are basically in Europe. So you see the green dots there are the ports, and so from the red points it goes to the blue points, and the blue point and the green points are basically port, and this point here are basically your consumption point. So basically it's a very simple concept on which ports to export the stuff through, and which ports are the ones that you would want to import to. So you can see that the problem can be as simple or it could be as complex. Now, what is happening here is that we are basically, as we mentioned earlier, trying to understand how ports are being chosen, and in this case here, through some form of ranking method. Now, there are a couple of literature, I won't mention the whole lot, but basically these are basically centered around this view, whereby Tongzon says that the most important factor in the choice of a port, be it an export point or an import point, is that of efficiency. And of course, Charles says that, well, it's not just the objective measures that matter, but there's also the subjective matters, and so he uses AHP to model pot choice model. Tang then studied pot choice behavior from a hinterland perspective, and they claim that the geographical location is crucial in terms of the choice of ports. And Veltman suggests that an extra euro spent on land cost has an impact on the pot choice behavior than the euro spent on the maritime transport. So then this takes the focus away from port to port, but from port to the production points, and from port to the consumption points. So in other words, the hinterland around which the ports operate become very, very important. And he submits that the land costs, the connectivity between the hinterland and the ports become very, very important. So the objective of this study is not to try and predict behavior, but trying to understand what influence pot choice according to both subjective and objective measures. That means cost is important. Yes, we know that time is important, but preferences. And preferences sometimes cannot be readily measured, but rather it could be things like, I have been doing business with you, with this port, for 10 years, and you have provided me very good service, the security is there, everything is on time, and we get business done with minimal disruption. So preferences could be anything, and in the paper, which is still in the process of being written up, there are like 10 or 12 subjective preferences which many studies have found to be important in influencing pot choice. So at the end of the day, it's a trade-off, like everything else. It's a trade-off between the objective measures in choice versus the subjective measures, and this is what we're trying to do here. So technically, in a very, very simple model, you have 3 stages, right? 1, 2, and 3. And this is where the production points are, and this is the cost of linking the production points to the port, and these are the costs of linking a port to another port, let's say from Asia to a port in Europe, and then from the port in Europe to the consumption points. And these are basically the price of those links. Okay, so that's simple. But of course, life is not as simple as we think, because usually there could be multiple production points as well as multiple consumption points, and these guys could choose one port, or they could choose many ports, as in this case here. Okay, so now what we've done is to look at just up to this point, multiple production points, multiple ports alternatives from which they are to rank these ports. The model can be more complicated by adding a couple more ports in here, but this is at the stage where we have developed the model. So I'll get Tomasz to come and continue the rest of it.
Okay, thank you. Every time I'm listening to him speaking about our work, I learn something new. Okay, that's the picture which models the problem we are discussing at the moment. So, what's the purpose? Let's say first, those SK are production points. Green dots, PI are departing ports, PJ are destination ports, these actually destination ports at the moment, and these are consumption points. So, first, why did we choose the graph theory for modeling? Because all those, not all, but most of the solutions of port choice problem were like multiple choice decision making problems. That basically means we have to compare multiple criteria and then somehow pick up the best one. But I'm a mathematician. That basically means I never know if it's right or not. So what we tried to do was to develop a model with single cost function. And then we can minimize or maximize this cost function, and then we get somehow optimal, but optimal solution for this case, not in general. So therefore we decide for graph theory for modeling. So what is actually our task? Our task is to serve all consumption points in some area through port Pj from all Pi which are chosen from all Sk in the site of production. So basically we want to find that kind of graph with minimal weight. Therefore we have to write the actually very it's quite simple cost function. This is sum of all weights from production points to departing ports, and then we add the weight from the departing ports to destination port, and then we sum everything according to all departing ports. Then on the end we add also the sum of weights from our chosen port Pj to all consumption port Cl. So, because in this stage we are working on very rather limited number of ports, we didn't construct any heuristic yet, but we just do as greedy as it goes. We calculate everything and then take the minimal weight out, and that's it. Okay, but these are only costs which we assume they are we can measure them. But then we have some unmeasurable impacts also, like Tony said. We will call this preference rate. There were some papers already mentioned before, which they are dealing with things criterions which affect the port choice but are not quite simply measurable. As I said, we will call this preference rate. Chow calculate this preference rate using AHP method. We somehow find this method suitable for what we want to do. But how to make a trade-off between costs which are measurable and preference rate which is not directly measurable, which is subjective. So first, actually, I have to say this is which on the end comes out quite good. Assumption is that if we have a higher preference rate, then this port will most likely appear in the final solution. So if the preference rate is small, then the port will not appear in the solution. That's like a beginning. Then this is then the simple equation which allow us to do this. If this is the weight of the connection between port to port or production point to port. This case is port. This is port to consumption point. Then we have to consider also preference rate of these PJs. That means destination port. And we simply took the reciprocal value of PR, multiply with the weight, then we get what new weight. Actually, that's what we wanted to. The bigger the preference rate is, it's more likely that this port will appear in the solution. But then, at that point, it seems good, but there is a problem. We never know how much this preference rate affects, how strong the impact of the preference rate is to our decision. Let me say, we do not know on how many percent of the weight PR have an impact. So at that point we just did this. So that basically means that with this P we define on how many percent of the whole weight this preference rate have an impact. In the initial solution, in our modeling on real data, we took the 50%, but then we did also the sensitivity analysis, as I will show you later. And actually, this is also one of the topics for further research, to find out if this connection it's true, or we should redefine it. But for now, it gives us quite good results. So, okay, that's our then new weight functions written with this percentage, and then we can start modeling. Okay, first we had to do some assumption about the data. We took the vessel we modeled was a Panamax size ship with 4,500 TEUs capacity. Sailing speed was rather high, 21 knots, but it's okay. I checked with all the literature. It's possible to operate on this speed. And then we had to find out some costs. That was a real problem. So that's one of the weights. This is the weight between two ports. We considered ship costs. Those are costs connected with ship operation, the fuel, paying to the crews and everything. Then we also considered port costs on one side and on the other side, and also capacity of the ship. Okay, these are costs we considered when we calculated port costs. For land transport, we choose the railway and ferry, then the distance, and also the number of points of origin. Why did we do this? Because we translate everything to just one TEU. TEU is one. We model everything according to one TEU on the end. Okay, that's it. This is so. Port that explaining the structure of the port costs. Okay, what about port charges? Port charges, we have harbor lights in use, then the pilotage service, towing service, mooring and unmooring costs, and in some ports there were some ancillary costs with, but on the other ports they are connected with some other costs. So those costs considered are definitely not all costs, but after the study of like that pile of papers, we took the costs which are not only in our opinion the most significant to make a good port choice on the end. So, okay, there's another assumption. Okay, then we start to see what kind of ports we choose for modeling. On the Asian side, we took Singapore, Hong Kong, Busan, Kaohsiung in Taiwan, and Port Klang in Malaysia. On European side, we took Koper, Rijeka, Barcelona, Rotterdam, and Hamburg. Those are costs I mentioned before. I will not speak about the numbers at the moment. So, okay, these are the data, basically. That's the thing I said already before. Okay, now we are at preference rate. That's the second biggest problem in this research. Why? Because we have to get the data from, let me say, from the real world. Until now, we sent out 2,500 questionnaires. So far, I get back very few. This is, I will need to put a lot of work more in to get some more back. But those are, let me say, preliminary results from like a, let me say, from a quick survey. But I am pretty sure that they will not stay, the ranking will be the same on the end. Or maybe some few changes, but in general, they will not change even after thousands of questionnaires. I'm pretty sure. Okay. What does it mean? That basically means that if on the end, I will choose one port, and the probability is 1. So, the probability that I will choose the port Koper is 0.195. And if I subtract all this is 1. So, by the way, this is a real picture from Sentosa Island in Singapore. They have palms and instead of inflatable boats in front of the beach, there is that kind of ship. Okay. For a first, let me say, initial calculation, we took P 50%. That means 50% of the weight is influenced by the preference rate, the other are pure costs, the other 50%. So, these are, let me say, initial results. See, the Barcelona has the lowest port cost. Rotterdam has the biggest, highest preference rate. Hamburg is the closest, or have a, let me say, the lowest cost of land transport to consumption points. And Rijeka is the, let me say, sailing days from Asia to Rijeka are the lowest. But on the end, rankings are like this. The best is Rotterdam, the second best is Hamburg, third best is Koper, then Rijeka, and on the end Barcelona. So, what can we see from these results? That actually there is a trade-off between costs and preference. So, according to costs, Rotterdam is on the last place, and then here on the fourth place, land transport costs, but on the end is first, and that's because of high preference rate. But then there's a question: how does how these results change if we change some parameters in the cost function. The first thing is we just try to change P. Instead of 50%, we go down and up. I mean, from 0 to 100%. That means if P is 0, then only pure costs. If 100%, then these subjective factors, PR rate, have an impact on the whole weight. I mean, change P in this. And what we get is this picture. That means the initial solution was here 50. Then we lower P and make P higher. And what we see that if we go lower than 50%, the results are changing. If we go from 50 to 40, we see that Hamburg is the best. If we go down to 20, Hamburg is still the best. But if we go down to 10, Copper is the best. And down there also until the end. But if we go higher, it's obvious that Rotterdam stays the best. Okay, then we change preference rate itself. Okay, that's it. That's like it. If I change the preference rate at one port, it also changes with on the others because the sum is always 1. So I choose port of Copper because it's Slovenian port for the port where I will change the parameters. So I change the PR. This is initial solution of until minus 10% and up to plus 10%. And what we see is that PR rate have a great influence. If we are here, if we are making PR higher for 4%, nothing happens. But if we go from 4 to 6%, the rankings are completely different. Copper becomes first, Rotterdam becomes second, Hamburg is third, Venice is third. No, it's not. It's fourth, and also Barcelona is fourth. But why Barcelona is always in fifth place? Actually, I have to repeat preliminary results. Maybe the PR is not so low, but because of low PR rate. PR rate is lower than the lower limit is, and nothing changed. If PR would be a little higher, then probably there would be some changes somewhere. But at that point, no changes. If we go here, we see that according to this model, port costs does not affect the solution. I mean, the ranking stays same all the time. If we change sailing times, we see, change sailing time, that means plus minus 10%. I am not speaking about plus minus 100%. I'm speaking about plus minus 10%. There will be some changes when we will have these triple E ships with speed of 14 knots. They say so, I don't know. Between 14 and 21 knots, it's a big difference. But at this speed, with these ships, its vessels, sailing time does not make any troubles for us. Okay. What about total distance to consumer points? As we see from the picture, that means from destination port to consumer points. As we see from this picture, this parameter has also quite big impact of the ranking. If this is the initial solution, we see if we make this cost smaller, we see that there are big changings in rankings. Maybe this is one of the things we should say to our government, that the railway from copper to inland is important. I didn't know it before. I read the newspaper, but now I kind of know that it is important. Okay, this is summary of this. What does it mean? It means that if we, okay, better is if we have a smaller, I mean, a lower total weight of the solution. I mean, we are picking up the lowest weight, the graph with the lowest weight. So if this is initial solution, if we make parameter this one, I mean cost of inland transport bigger by 10%, then the overall solution is 3.8% higher. That means worse. If we make plus 10% on sailing days, we have only 1.1% higher result, and higher price or cost or whatever. We see that port charges are more or less level. But if we come to this PR rate, on the interval minus 10 plus 10, it looks like a line, but it's not. It goes like this if we go plus minus 100. If we make preference rate higher by 10%, it makes us 3.4% lower total weight. It means that the PR rate and inland transport costs have a big influence. There is a smaller influence of sailing days, but very, very limited influence from sailing days. Then, after this result, I was not sure if this is okay. And then I checked again all those papers, and we somehow find that actually the findings in the papers support our idea. It's true, like about this euro in inland and sea transport, and also in all those Chow papers about preference rate. Actually, those papers support our idea. But then we tried also to make a prediction what will happen if the price of bringing 1 TEU from Asia to Europe doubled. And what we find out is that even if it's doubled, this line becomes more steeper, of course, but it doesn't go that far. It's still, inland transport still stays the most important. So far the conclusions are, we're sure about them. We have some other conclusions, but we cannot say that we are completely sure about them. Port choice influenced by both objective and subjective factors. This involves a trade-off between cost and preference rate. Efficiency influence choice, but preference and perceptions matter too. So, now I will give. So, should we have questions now or later? Okay. Please, any questions, comments? Yes.
Bojan Georgievski from Macedonia. I have two questions. The first one is in regard to the criteria you had used to determine the preference rate. What factors are used in it? Which are these qualitative costs or factors which you are using? And the second is regarding the importance of the preference rate. You mentioned a number of times that you changed it from 10 to 20 to 40%. How do you calculate this? How do we know in which case it is more important and when it is less?
Okay. The first these results, preference rate, we have calculated them according to 5 different criteria. But just a second. But then we find out that they are not good. Then we make more of them. 12. Maybe you can explain better.
Okay, that's all the answers.
Therefore, we made the sensitivity analysis because we assume that it's 50% first, but it's obviously not true that okay, maybe it's true, but we don't know. So therefore, we made the sensitivity analysis. But as I said, it's the matter of further research. Now we are developing the model. The model should be robust from 0 to 100%. That is the idea now. But later on, we are already gathering data also from the other side. We want to determine their actual function, which is certainly will not be reciprocal. 1 divided by PR. It will be that shape, but definitely not exactly.
Yeah, so what we did basically is to use arbitrary numbers to test the robustness of the model. The trade-off, the preference rate graph, as Tomasz has said, that when you use 0 to 100, it's actually non-linear. It's not linear. So the thing is that how non-linear would it be? We don't know. So that's where the surveys will help us to determine. Yeah.
How do you know if the model works? Have you exactly checked if the results that it shows are true? And also,
Okay.
where can it be applied? I mean, because you say European cities, and for different people, that can mean different cities. And what you've showed about the choice of the ports, especially in Europe, they have been chosen by different regions. So Barcelona from Slovenia, it's a big difference for one if it's from there or there. I mean, by territory.
Yeah. Okay. First answer. What you said would be necessary if we want to predict or model the port choice behavior, but we don't. We don't want to say, okay, this port will have so many TUs next year. That means that case we work with predicting port choice behavior. So I need a model, I put some parameters, and then I get the number of TUs according to this. We don't want that. We want to make some kind of tool to help someone to make a decision. And to make a decision, we pick up all those parameters or whatever criterions they already mentioned in the papers. And we make out of this, and also from our own ideas, this function. And actually, I cannot compare it with nothing, because because my assumption is that the decisions are not right. I want to help them to make better decisions according to the cost function we are developing. Okay, but then if the cost function is okay or not, that's the further research. I mean, you never know.
only way to see whether it's accurate or not is to check it against real data and then see what happens. No, we are getting the surveys done at the moment, but you know, when you send surveys, it's, unless the guy is your friend, you know, he's not going to spend half an hour to fill in a 2-page surveys. So that's what I actually do. I mean, I actually send to people that I know, and they know somebody else who owns 10 ships, or he's a 3PL or something like that. And I'm trying to send it to, like, for example, Tomasz is taking care of Europe, I take care of Asia. We send it to 3PLs as well as shipping companies in Busan, Kaohsiung, Hong Kong, Klang, and Singapore. So Singapore side is not a problem, but the others, you know, you really need to know people to get the kind. So I mean, from the Asia side so far, 8 from Singapore, 1 from Malaysia, 1 from Taiwan. So but we will have to just, in order to verify the accuracy, that will have to depend on the surveys that we collect.
Ah, okay. I didn't answer this. It is who? I don't know. If I am a big company from.
I can answer this for you if you want.
Yes, please.
Sasha Turk from Gebruderwijs. We have actually this kind of the problem, potentially a problem. Some things they are exact, like cost, selling days, and so on. But other things like preferences, they are not exact. Of course, you have to weigh them. And our company is relatively big, and the markets that we are serving are mostly in Central and Eastern Europe. If you look from the mapping point of view, and of course I'm from Slovenia, we are trying to promote copper, and colleagues from Croatia, they're trying to promote Rijeka. But most of the traffic goes through Rotterdam and Hamburg, of course. And if you would ask me now why, I would say because of preferences. So if we would be able to do a study like this, and then do some changes in the preferences, then maybe we will come up with a different decision that is now on the table. So maybe the route will switch to Koper, to Rijeka, or maybe somewhere else. So this I see as a good benefit, and when it will be finished?
Sorry? When will it be finished? When will it be finished?
With the project.
Yeah.
I hope until December. Ken, please.
About your questionnaire. Whenever you ask people why they do things, what their preferences are, most people actually haven't got a clue but give you answers anyway. They justify their decisions ex post. So if you've got to do this and actually want information from people to get preferences, you have to do a genuine stated preference analysis where you give them alternative scenarios and then change parameters in them and see what happens. Simply asking people what your preferences are on a scale, they'll answer you, but you know, the decisions aren't normally made in that way, and the questions aren't really useful. So I'm just wondering why you don't, instead of going asking why they're doing things, do a genuine stated preference study, send them a hypothetical picture of some set of ports, not necessarily the ports you've got, but broadly with their characteristics, and say what would happen if we changed X or we changed Y. That would give you a genuine reflection because A, they're answering it objectively, B, they've all got the same information. And that's standard stated preference, which is what you should feed into an AHP model.
Actually, the AHP model consists of a collection of the data compared, let's say, input A and input B, then A and C, and then B and C to look at the consistency in the choices of the ranges. That's how it's another form of stated preference. I know, stated preference is like, okay, you have this, and then you compare, you have different scenarios, and then, yeah. It's not a pure stated preference as you mentioned, but the point is not it.
Okay, just a second. I will show this questionnaire. Okay, then in addition to your answer. We didn't want to save the world in one night. I mean, so, no, no. We just choose the method which is widely used on this HP, widely used on this field. Although we both agreed it's not the best possible. Yeah. No, no. Not this model can be the same, but we just use the other ports as a data, as a instance, input instance. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yes, definitely. If I just need to pick up the ports which I want to model, and then I need the completely different data. Preference rates are different, the costs are different, everything is different, but the mathematical model stays the same. So the first idea now was to make a model robust. We even tried some simulation, not in air traffic as well. It might work as well, I don't know. But so the whole idea was with this input instance. If I want to serve some customer in Cologne, I can use Hamburg, I can use Koper, or I can use Barcelona. It's not the big difference in distances. So, but if I want to come to Hamburg, I need 4 more days or something. But preference rate is much higher in Hamburg than here in the south. So, okay. If you want to speak about the questionnaire.
Well, actually, we did ask them to the factors of the user, like connectivity to internet, connectivity to keyboard, frequency of shift from to and from destination, compatible port counters, quality of payment platform, ease of payment, Then what we did then there are 2 sections. That's the first section. In terms of what we consider as the factors that would influence the choice. Then the second section is actually looking at the port itself. Given these 5 ports. So the first one is just looking at the factors itself. What is the important factors? And secondly, given these factors, now with respect to the port, how would you rank these ports? And then after that, the rest are all this information that you require from the company. But it's like I said, it's a very kind of preliminary study, and
yeah, I have. Works? Yeah, it works. My question will be connected to AHP, which was delivered by Professor Thomas from United States. In your model, when you tried to make some calculations, did you use expert choice program software, which is delivered by Professor Thomas Sati, or maybe you used own calculations, your own procedures? Yeah, we know that behind this method, although it is not all criteria, they are very subjective, but behind there is mathematics, behind there is matrix calculations, yeah? But my question is about procedures, calculating procedures, yeah.
Since we are coming from Department of Computational Rich Methods and Application in Logistics, we did it by ourselves. Using the MATLAB.
MATLAB.
Yeah, yeah.
But for MATLAB, you tried to prepare your own procedures also, because you had to prepare, or you just use ready procedures.
We program it. We make
yeah,
it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other question, please?
Do you see a possibility to involve GIS in solving this problem? Because you mentioned
Yes,
graph theory in the beginning.
Of course, on the end we want to have an application. When you use Google Map and just click on the desired port, that's the what we call it that, and then the destination ports on also consumption points and production points, and there will be a huge database behind, and that will pull out everything and calculate, and I'll get results in a few seconds. Actually, that's the idea, but when will it be, that's another question. But that's the goal. Little science fiction, but any other question?
You can this model with another model of
yeah.
You tell the test, you use the test for data and for model. Some kind of test.
That's a problem. You know why? Because in the papers I haven't found any model to decision-making model for this purpose. There was one made by one professor from Turkey. On the end, it turns out that the best is the Istanbul port. The model was rather complicated, but the results were trivial. So that's the only model, I mean not model, but decision-making tool for this purpose I found. Oh, I didn't test it. So if there is no other questions, thank you for comments and
Professor Chin and Professor Kramberger, thank you very much for your presentation. Now, before continuing, we would like to inform you about a minor change in the conference program. Now, we are namely inviting Ms. Sinka Sekularat-Ivošević to give a presentation on creating the container seaports positioning strategy based on benchmarking analysis. You are kindly invited to the podium.
Good afternoon. My name is Senka Šekolarec-Ivošević and Professor Sanja Bauk. We are coming from Faculty of Maritime Studies Kotor from Montenegro, and I'm glad to present you our paper named with creating the container seaports positioning strategy based on benchmarking analysis. Let me introduce you with the aims of our research. During the recent years, seaport management have experienced a need for defining and implementing marketing strategies, of market segmenting, targeting, and positioning. So this is the focus of contemporary marketing issue. And where is one seaport in all these circumstances and condition of global competition, unitization in general cargo packaging, rise of mega careers in container shipping, outsourcing, and the key question in all these circumstances is why a certain seaport is preferred to some another one. The colleagues told something about port choice criteria, and a lot of authors made the systematization about these factors. Some of them are given here. Physical and technical infrastructure, then geographical position, seaport efficiency, connection level between seaports in terms of interconnections related to the frequency of long overseas navigation and feeder services, quality and price of seaport services or tariffs, safety and environmental seaport profile, seaport reputation among all stakeholders. So what is the aim, the main aim of our research? The main aim is to adapt the benchmarking technique to the marketing positioning of the Aegean, Adriatic and Black Sea ports. We wanted to make and present the actual state of these business systems, and also we wanted to maybe give a step to give some maybe steps toward their future development. It is good to say something about positioning and benchmarking as a method, and also how we can use benchmarking in marketing positioning. Professor Kotler made the definition about positioning and said that this is the activity of designing a company's offer and its image in a way which would provide it with a distinctive or recognizable place in the mind of target customers. Also, we wanted to point out that the main purpose of positioning is to increase the benefits for the company as well as the all stakeholders of etc. one port. The positioning is based on the findings and the perception of customers. Positioning aims to provide a special place of the offered service in customers' primarily mental map. Benchmarking is often considered as a process of simple comparison, but it is not simple comparison. Nevertheless, if the benchmarking is considered in terms of port system enhancement, then it is much more than a simple comparison or ranking. Almost every process or activity of port organization can be subjected to benchmarking, such as work processes, port services, supporting businesses, functions, administration, etc. Benchmarking is used to help managers of the seaport to understand and develop critical attitudes toward the business processes. Furthermore, benchmarking promotes and activates the learning process in the organization and therewith motivates the launching of changes and improvements. So this is definitions. Let me introduce you about our research methodology. First of all, we made post-choice factor systematization. We divided all factors into several groups: marketing variables, development variables, organizational variables, financial accounting variables, and informational variables. We have here 35 criteria divided into several or 5 groups. In order to quantitatively express the values of the qualitative variables, all these variables are qualitative variables. We use the constant value method. What does it mean? It does mean that if a certain seaport, we researched 8 seaports. If a certain seaport fulfills a certain qualitative criteria, then the reference value is marked with the standard number 1. And of course, if not, then the variable is assigned by the value 0. Next, we calculated average benchmarking score. In numerical terms, this value corresponds to the average value of all qualitative variables being expressed in binary terms, as we said, 0 or 1, for each analyzed port. This value, what is the most important explanation of this calculation? In marketing sense, this calculation represents the position of each considered port within the perception map of its customers. Then, after calculation average benchmarking score for each analyzed port, we calculated total benchmarking score. And of course, we made comparison each benchmarking score to total benchmarking score. This value in mathematical sense means that the value is the total average benchmarking score of all considered ports. In marketing sense, it might be noted that this value corresponds to the position of the average or imaginary investigated seaports. Here, on this picture, figure 1, you can see the Aegean, Adriatic and Black Sea ports positions based on this well-known benchmarking analysis. Here you can see Constanza port. The highest position is held by Constanza port, while it is followed by the Piraeus port. It's Aegean port. Then it is followed by Koper port. The Rijeka is positioned very close, here we can see, to the average or imaginary average port. Our only international Montenegro port of Bar is somewhere here, so underpositioned in comparison to Thessaloniki ports. The rest of ports, Tares and Ploče port, we can see that they are almost underpositioned in comparison to other ports and also to total benchmarking score or to one imaginary average port. Here we want to give some marketing comments on the obtained results. We pointed 3, maybe the main or the most important marketing comments of investigated issue. By analyzing marketing variables, it is to be emphasized that all seaports except the Dares port are free zones. It is very simple to conclude what means when one seaport is free zone over its entire territory. That opens possibilities for the development of distribution centers and full affirmation of well-known concepts of value-added services. Distributional centers can be found only in Constanza, Koper and Rijeka ports, while in the rest ones, their management and their experts expected that they will open these centers in the period from 2013, it means next year, to 2015. Most of the seaports have their unique quality management systems, QMS, and they did their operations according to these systems. For marketing experts, the most important is very integrated marketing communications, and in this period of recession, economic and maritime recession, we can also say, the emphasis should be put on the communications with customers, especially those loyal ones. Also, we analyze seaport management models, and we can find that Koper and Thessaloniki are the dominantly public seaports, while the others have a landlord management model, combined public and private ownership. Daresport is the only one that having the tool model, while none of them being an absolutely private port. Also, according to informational variables, we found that all ports have electronic data interchange services, but they will do, their management will do on applying enterprise resource planning software system in the future, of course. Conclusions. What is the main conclusion of our research? At the beginning, we made one question about why the concrete seaport is chosen in comparison to another one. It is not answered by providing container port equipment or by applying modern container handling technology or by achieving efficiency of containers transshipping. Of course, this is all consumption or the one base for employing marketing management skills based primarily on the support of appropriate software and know-how concepts. Also, we emphasized involvement into the maritime logistics chains and positioning seaport in marketing sense. Also, we have to recognize and to investigate almost on daily basis the customer's need and to adapt our service according to their needs. What is at the end, this is marketing strategies, especially positioning, become the basis of capacity planning and finding out the instruments of competitive advantage gaining. That's all for this question. I would like maybe to present, but I save this for your questions, of course, but it is not bad to make present calculations and to make systematization of all investigated variables. So you can see here what did we investigate, and as I said, marketing variables, developmental variables, organizational, financial and accounting variables, and informational variables.
Very very simple question.
Okay.
Very simple question. You're getting yes/no answers to all of these, and then you add them up. You simply add them all up. You get a total number by getting a 1 or 0.
Yes.
And then you add them all up.
Yes, we make average score.
But doesn't that means that you're giving equal emphasis to each question? Is that realistic? I mean, surely some questions...
Maybe Professor Bauk and I will continue later.
We were working together on this paper, mainly explanation in that sense. This was the first iteration in our work, and we just add if the certain qualitative criteria has numerical value 1, we add another 1 and so on. But later on we introduced weight coefficients. We gave weight coefficients to each qualitative feature, and then multiply that weight coefficient with 1 or 0 and sum them all at the end. Weights. We make survey similarly as our colleagues previously did. We interview managers in the seaports and experts.
So how much weight do you give each manager?
The equal weights. The equal weights.
Well, our own experts.
Yes. Thank you for your question.
This research presented here is the base of our future research, in the sense that we applied matrix game and well-known AHP and Prometheus method in make repositioning of this obtained position. So this is the base of next researches. Also, we pointed that even qualitative variables are not sufficient maybe to present in whole the present situation, so we decided to investigate also quantitative criteria. It means all criteria that previous colleague analyzed in previous presentation. Thank you very much.
Ms. Shekulara-Ivošević, we would like to kindly thank you for your presentation. We would like, before continuing, to inform you about another minor change. Professor Drašković, Veselin Drašković, and Professor Mimo Drašković unfortunately couldn't join us today. And now we are inviting Professor Konrad Štiphavke to give his presentation.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I feel especially honored to be invited to the 9th Conference on Logistics and Sustainable Transport at this nice campus. Indeed, I'm proud that I patronized this venue nearly from the start, and I'm also glad that our common activities formed the base of a memorandum of exchange and cooperation which was signed by the universities of Maribor and Würzburg in 2008. Based on our personal contacts, but also on a common view of the transport sector, content of research. Well, we speak about such dangers, but in contrast, I present myself several case studies which were partly financed by the relevant municipalities. However, we did the results, we elaborated results totally of our own with no prejudice. Now we go a bit back from theory to the people, from the worldwide scale to the village where the population does live, and we start with the lecture. I think we start there. Public awareness. What is the scientific question? What is the scientific question? Normally, and this is the question which is particular to all transport studies, attitude of population towards mobility and notably towards motorized transport. But also we have scientific question of mobility behavior in a changing socio-economic environment. We have the question of current and future choices of personal transport modes, and we have the question of modal choice in a given settlement. We take example of 4 municipalities with 5,000, more or less 5,000 inhabitants each of them. And at the end we have to ask about visions of communal and transport planning in the immediate surrounding and in the municipality. That means we have to ask, what do people perceive? How do they perceive their space? And what do they finally want? What do they wish? What do they want? And in which way do these aspects change our landscape of mobility and of transport? These are some data on the geographic setting. I will not go too much into detail. I had the pleasure to hand over the paper to Dr. Ipovec, which is about 12, 15 pages, so you can read everything which is needed. Geographical setting, again, 3 municipalities with more or less 3,000, 4,500 inhabitants each, which are more or less under the suburban influence of Würzburg city. Würzburg city, although it only has 140,000 inhabitants, is an uncontested center in the region of Lower Franconia and the main administrative town. So, of course, we have a certain movement of suburbanization, and we also, of course, have a big traffic density. If we look a bit into detail, we have 2 of the villages which we analyzed exactly here. This is the map of traffic density as it is elaborated by our Bavarian Ministry of Interior, and we realize that the more we approach to Würzburg, the more we have intensive movements by individual cars. How do these places look like? I mean, from theory, we go down to local reality. We have one town, Iphofen, which has long history and which is a town of its own right, famous for its wine cellars. But we have the other 2 which developed from agricultural villages with an aspect which seems on the first hand not very attractive, but nevertheless with a location that attracts population, where the number of inhabitants has 3-fold in the last 40 years. Estenfeld, another former agricultural village. We still see the remains of agricultural activities, but finally the centers of these villages have lost much of their importance and much of their attraction as a location for dwelling. Pleasures of suburbia, of course. How is suburbia? There are enough studies about this, but nevertheless it's nice to have a picture. We are in Estenfeld again. We are in typical suburban area which was developed in the 1990s and where the village center is about in front of us. Now, what was our approach when we want to know how do people behave? We have several choices. Of course, we can ask them in their transport vehicles. We can ask car drivers. This is a tedious job. We did it once with 5,000 interviews, but there you need a lot of police, and that means sometimes it ends with gigantic congestion around in the area which you want to analyze. But the more easy thing is to do household surveys with questionnaire, which is distributed to every household. We got a return of approximately 22% of the population of each municipality, which we broke down on the different living quarters or residential quarters of the municipality, and this meant that our results had a representative basis. We also did traffic counts at selected crossroads to see the reality of the daily movements, separated with motorized and non-motorized vehicles, and we did analysis of public transport, including passenger counts. And of course, we used the huge array of data collected by the various administrations and the regional entities. Now, let's look a bit about at the details. This is one of the villages which we analyzed, Estenfeld. Of course, the main task, we start with dividing such a village, such a municipality in different quarters, because the problems of the transportation, the problems that do arise from daily mobility and notably from motorized mobility, are different in every quarter. It's no use to make planning, to make transport analysis in seeing the entire municipality, but it's important to separate it, and in this case we divided it in in 5 different quarters, as we did it with the other villages. Now the question was how do people perceive the cars? Let's realize of the first hand that 90%, 95% of the households own a car. So do they think there are too many cars? And it's quite fascinating that 1/2 of the population say yes, there are too many cars around. And of course this is theory. In practice, still up to now, as we see from the further graphs, they use their cars, but this will change as we can prove from our survey. 50% nearly say there are too many cars around, but what can you do? Yes, there's congestion, and this is around the kindergarten where parking is strictly forbidden, but the young mothers, they drop their children, they're always in a hurry, so it's totally congested, especially in the morning. And this is a major element of conflict. Why it's blank? Huh? Why it's blank? Well, in any case, we continue with the slides we have. Modal choice, of course, is very important. With the results, again, from the household surveys, we realize that approximately between 60 and 80% of the daily movements are made by the individual car, where it varies again within the 3 municipalities, whereas public transport has a share between 3%. This is the case of Iphofen, where the station is nearly 2 kilometers away from the center of the town, to up to 16%, where we have a half-hourly offer of buses during the daytime. What's this? This is the end. Can I put my stick because I have it? Sorry for this. Who's this? Presentation. So yeah, this one. Yes. Okay, sorry for this. And let's start again. Well, suburbia is the place where dreams come true. It is a push and pull problem. That means people move out, but this means also that transport is increasing, and it's estimated in Germany that approximately 40% of all personal transport arises from a shift of population from the historical town centers to suburban areas. Nevertheless, the movement is still there, and the movement is the origin of the problems which we have now. It's much better now. We have all the pictures. I thought it was prepared like this, but nevertheless. Well, this is suburbia, and now we have the approach. What was our approach? Household surveys, traffic counts. I explained this, and now we have the where's the problem? Is that problem of the computer? Does it work at home? What program you have? You have Windows, the most recent? Me too. It should work. Because I checked it before I left, before yesterday, and everything. Okay. Well, without the slides is a bit difficult, but nevertheless we have to do it. What were the results of our survey? Results of our survey were quite astonishing, and I would like to show you the slide with the results, but obviously it doesn't work. What did we learn from the voices of 3,100 respondents? The most astonishing thing was that more than 60% want be ready to use of further improvement and would be ready to leave their car at home instead and switch to public transport. Also, these population, the analyzed households wished for sustainable solutions for their daily mobility, which include active transport planning. This was one of the most important and most pointed answer. They want more control of individual traffic, notably reduction of speed and improvement of parking behavior. They want pedestrianization, what we call in German Spielstraße or play street in residential quarters and in village centers. And they want, again, better public transport by buses and trains with good accessibility and rhythmic timetable. And they want integration of the citizens' aims and wills in the regional transportation planning. Now, we come to an end. I'm really sorry about this because, as I told you, the slides do explain the contents which I wanted to propose to you, and that means that there is a sort of a shortcut, but the shortcut is not so problematic as this is the last lecture of this morning, and you find, as I told you, the complete paper, at least hopefully, in the disk which is joined here. So there we come to the end. We know what people do want, and we ask ourselves, what do we learn from contents which I could not present to you? What do we learn from an array of data and a selection of non-spectacular slides, because this in reality is not very spectacular. Especially if we come back to the heading of the conference. Sustainability starts with a change in mentality and with the personal daily mobility behavior. The first change is there. Public personal transport is in fact seen as the environmentally friendly alternative to the individual car, and its importance will further increase. But this demands the following things: holistic regional planning where non-motorized and public transport has a solid share in the planning, demands also analysis of the needs and the wishes of the mobile population, and also demands a demand-oriented offer in public transport. In any case, we can say, listen to the people. People in general are more serious and more environmentally aware than some technical-oriented planners might think. And there we are with a big shortcut. I'm sorry about this. Originally, these were about 27, 28 slides. And in any case, but there are selected sources, and I had the pleasure to add it 3 years ago. Small volume, together with my colleagues from Maribor and from Celje, where some of the contents were already presented. Sorry for these problems, and I hope nevertheless that you got a small impression from the work we did. As I told you, all the slides do contain, well, not this one, do contain the results from our survey. They look like this, and we have approximately 10 slides to support, of course, the theory, or rather the results which I have developed here. Thank you, and apologies to all of you. Yes, do so. My question is really what happened with the slides. Because I sent them, and they were there. And they are on my stick, incidentally.
They will explore them. But I have another question.
You took it. Yeah.
Is there any chance that the public transport in Germany is profitable?
Well, that's a good question. It seems there is certain convergence of costs. Up to now, we do support the railway system with about, well, it's less now, 700 million euros per year, the local railway system. And in a certain way, the local bus systems are also supported. For this bus line linking the two villages to Würzburg, with the introduction of a rhythmic timetable, that means a bus every half hour, the income for the line, the revenue of the line has increased by 60%, and the number of customers has increased by 30%. That means with local bus lines, we may come to a break-even point in the very, very near future. Especially as, for instance, if we take this line as an example, we have a further increase the last of more than 20% without any change of the offer in the last 5 years, according to our traffic surveys. But there is, of course, you have to watch the things very closely. You know, this is not for granted. You have to improve, and you have to listen to the population. Where are they? Where do they are? And where do they want to go to, and at what time? And if you do this, and if you make them a good offer, they will shift from the car in parts to public transport. And it's notable to realize that especially transport for leisure purposes, that means tourism, holidays, private visits, does increase more than proportionally in public transport.
Thank you.
I'm a bit shocked about this. What can we do? What can we do? Okay. Well, thank you, and apologies once again for the missing slides, but what can we do?
Professor Schliep-Kake, first of all, we would like to kindly apologize you for this unpredictable technical problem with the PowerPoint. And of course, we would like to kindly thank you for this enriching presentation. Now we are inviting Professor Nikolai Tsuglinuk to give his presentation and speech.
Yeah, that's what I imagined. Just let me try this one. Yeah, the same type of slides. This is Excel slides, which were transforming to PowerPoint. And it worked perfectly. I gave the lecture. Why people would have complained. Yeah, of course. And typically, it affects the PowerPoint, the Excel tables. Okay. Because I had several Excel tables in there, and they dropped out.
Yes.
They were exceeded. Yes. Except for one, and this is the strange thing. That one was there. Yeah, one was there.
We need two microphones.
Уважаемые коллеги, рамки солнечной энергии на земном шаре для Российской Федерации является очень важной проблемой, особенно мониторинг транспорта солнечной энергии, поскольку ее использование значительно повышает эффективность потребления энергии, именно экологической. И я думаю, в этом направлении сейчас будет проводиться и будет вести все работы.
Okay. This report about solar water heaters from vacuum tubes in Siberia. It is a very important problem because there are use of ecological energy.
Ну и предлагаемый путь решения, он очевиден, это использование солнечных водонагревателей. Причем эти водонагреватели разработаны у нас. Это водонагреватели с вакуумными трубками, которые позволяют очень эффективно использовать инфракрасное излучение солнечной энергии.
The current world experience show that one method of solution of this problem of efficient hot water for customers is using solar energy.
Ну и, конечно, мы понимаем, что на земной шар идет может быть, неравномерное распределение солнечной энергии, и оно выглядит следующим образом. Вот самая большая солнечная энергия идет от экватора и в стороны. И, конечно, северные территории, и так же как южные территории, которые идут на Антарктиде, имеют меньшее количество солнечной энергии.
The uneven flow of solar radiation on Earth's surface, as well as climatic factors, particularly at the site of the installation of solar water heaters, require an evaluation of their energy efficiency. Mean daily solar radiation on the Earth's surface, according to NASA, in Russia, well as a comparison of solar radiation in Krasnoyarsk and other cities listed on the following slides. This slides about solar radiation in the world. In the slide, we can see that solar radiation on the south part of Earth is less than in the central part. Yes.
Ну и, конечно, мы в первую очередь рассмотрели солнечную радиацию на территории России. Она также очень неравномерна, и есть особые зоны максимальной солнечной радиации. Как ни странно, Якутия, там, где минус 60 градусов мороз, вот солнечная радиация очень активна, можно очень успешно использовать солнечные коллекторы для производства тепловой электрической энергии.
At first, we try to find solar radiation in the Russia. In the red zones, there are the most solar radiation territory. It's strange, but Yakut, very cold winters. They have the most radiation, solar radiation in the central part of Russia.
Ну и, конечно, мы посмотрели Германию, Владивосток, Хабаровск, Москву, Одессу, Красноярск, как распределяется непосредственно суммарная солнечная радиация на горизонтальной плоскости. Киловатт-час на метр квадратный в день. И оказывается, что в Красноярске вот эта вот зона, она выше, чем в Германии.
In the table, there are solar radiation in different countries. Germany and different towns in Russia: Vladivostok, Khabarovsk, Moskva, Odessa, Krasnoyarsk. From March to July, the specific total solar radiation in Krasnoyarsk hit higher than in southern Germany, Stuttgart. And average values are approximately equal to.
Ну и, конечно, наша разработка, она уникальная, оригинальная. Это нагреватель с вакуумными трубками, который позволяет легко испаряющуюся жидкость, типа спирт, она испаряется при любой температуре в вакууме и переносится молекулами на выделяющее тепло в нагреватель, вот сюда. Поэтому идет очень интенсивный нагрев с высоким КПД.
This is a unique solar water heater from vacuum tubes. A review of solar water heaters shows that are the most effective with evacuated tubes and heat conducting rods. It is a very big hose which peek out of the tube, and he put on this heater.
Ну и здесь приведены показатели, то есть разница температуры между коллектором и воздухом. Воздушная среда и сам коллектор. Понятно, что вот здесь вакуумный трубочный коллектор имеет самый высокий КПД 73%. По сравнению с другими. Те, что используются в Европе, они имеют вот такой КПД.
On the slide, you can see efficiency of different solar collectors, temperature difference between collectors and air of solar radiation. Here is very high effective collector which used in Russia, and this is collectors which uses in Europe. Theoretical efficiency of evacuated solar collector is almost independent of ambient temperature and is equal to 1.63 to 0.63 to 0.77.
Вот такие коллекторы сейчас мы разместили производство в Китае, и он будет стоить всего $300. Рабочая сила, и стоимость такого коллектора очень низкая. Я думаю, что он успешно будет реализовываться на всей территории земного шара.
This new model of collectors became to produce in China, and the price of this collector is very low. It is about $300 today.
Ну и, конечно, за какое-то время будет нагреваться вода, это очень интересно, накопители и так далее. Ну, конечно, это происходит днем, идет нагрев водонагревателя термоса. Нагрев идет примерно 5 часов. До температуры вот 60.
It is experiment. It is variant number 1. Experiment about hot of accumulation in the day time.
И температуре минус 9 до минус 5 градусов.
In temperature from -9 to -5 degrees.
Это отрицательная температура. Ну и также от температуры минус 4 до плюс 4 этот процесс, время сокращается, и нагрев до 60 градусов происходит всего лишь за 2 часа.
In the temperature from -4 to +4, it's variant number 2. The time of hot of water decrease on 2 hours.
Спасибо за
Вы же не сказали выводы.
выводы.
Да.
Ну, давайте скажем. Скажите вывод. Вывод понятен.
Efficiency of solar water heat resulting in the course of the experiment corresponds to the theoretical. Solar water heaters for energy performance could be in Siberia alternative water heaters operating on fossil fuel and electricity. This is our
Ну и кроме того,
conclusion.
я хочу сообщить такую информацию. Мы разработали солнечные коллекторы для производства электрической энергии. Это абсолютно новая технология получения материала из кремния. 6 девяток, частота этого кремния 6 девяток после запятой. Никто в мире такого получить не мог. И КПД такой солнечной батареи, они используются на наших космических спутниках, сейчас равняется до 34%. Мир достиг пока 14%. Поэтому это новая разработка, которую мы вам представим на следующей конференции.
They produce new products which produce creamy and with very high energy and efficiency. And about this new product, they speak on the next conference.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Question?
Professor Tsuglinok, we would like to kindly thank you for your speech. With this speech, we have reached the end of this first session. Before taking our lunch break, we would like to kindly invite you to the social event which will take place at the Old Castle of Celia. You are invited to join us in front of the faculty at 7 p.m. from where the bus will take us to the castle. Now you are invited to the Hotel Stoma, which is next to our faculty, and enjoy your meal.